episode 3, I travelled to Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank of Palestine to meet Amira Musallam, a Christian Palestinian, a mother, a peace activist, and someone whose entire life has been shaped by Israel's illegal military occupation. What I witnessed wasn't just the story of one family, it was the front line of a much bigger battle. Amira's in-laws' home in Beit Jala was stormed by Israeli settlers. They forced their way in, smashing their belongings and throwing everything they owned into the street. Her 9-year-old son Ramzi stood there clutching the last toy that hadn't been destroyed by the settlers. When Amira called police, it was the Israeli occupation forces who came, but not to stop the settlers. In fact, they protected them. And they arrested her son's father, giving him a restraining order from his own land. This is part of a systemic pattern. Armed illegal settlers, often accompanied by children, backed by occupation forces soldiers, targeting Palestinian families, while claiming land through legal manipulation, intimidation, and violence. But this is also a landmark case. It exposes forged documents, systemic land fraud, and the machinery of forced displacement. Yet amid all of this, Amira and her family are choosing non-violent resistance, standing their ground with dignity, hope, and the belief that justice is still possible. This is the story of unarmed civilians protecting their land, of truth confronting power, and of a mother who refuses to let her son grow up believing that violence is the only language left. This is Amira's story, and through it, we see what's really happening in the occupied West Bank in Palestine today.
They put everything out for us. They removed us from the land without any paper, without any right. And here they are, military protecting those settlers.
يحكي على الفيسبوك انه احنا عيله مشبحان وتصريم عصيم كاخب يعني إلنا
لا Israeli citizen كمان احنا Israeli citizen.
إلنا متسابنوي اخي هم عصيم كاخب ما فيش معهم عمر اخلاق.
ما اعرف
ايش بيسووا كادين
ولا مع حدا. Say hi to the camera.
Journalist outside. Journalist outside. And respect you.
עוף אחורה, אני אביא אותו למטה, רק תתקדם.
כל חרה.
זה מצולם, זה מצולם, הוא רוצה להביא את הנשק. אני יודעת. תרגע.
ימה, hey. You are on drugs? It seems that your eyes are very red. What did you take? What drug did you take? What drug did you take? What drug did you take? Tell me what drug did you take?
Morning. Can you start by telling us your name?
Yes, of course. My name is Amira Musallam. I'm from Bethlehem. I'm a 36 years old Palestinian Christian and single mom for a 9-year-old boy, Ramzi.
Thanks for meeting with me this morning. Tell me about growing up here.
Oh, it's a hard question because it's a long one. Lots of details and But yeah, let's start. Growing up in Bethlehem and as a Palestinian was not very easy, though very nice at the same time. Living in Bethlehem in a closed area, in an open air prison where you are surrounded with an apartheid wall, with fences, with checkpoints, with gates, with settlements, with bypass roads that you cannot access and only Israelis can access, is just really, it's called a city, that it's where you live and you move around, but it's really an open air prison. So every day you wake up in the morning, instead of just keeping the day flow, you just have to plan everything, and sometimes it doesn't work because suddenly there is a curfew, suddenly there is a closure, suddenly there is a martyr, suddenly, so really our life in Bethlehem, as much as it's beautiful, and it should be beautiful, it's the birthplace of Jesus, but it's really difficult. And we have been always under some kind of attack. So, for example, in 2000, in the Second Intifada, this neighborhood where we are sitting now was bombed brutally by the Israeli tanks and the Israeli helicopters. Our neighbor, who's Dr. Fisher, a German doctor who wanted to rescue people in the neighborhood who were injured, he was attacked by a rocket from a helicopter, where he was killed immediately, of course. And I was back then 12 years old. I saw his flesh and blood all over the place. Our house where we are now were hit, partially bombed, not all of it, thank God. We were able after a while to come back after fixing it, but it was really unsafe. We also, after that, we used to go to Gilo, which is like the settlement on top of the mountain, just next door, and until the 2000, when the Second Intifada started, and then afterwards the apartheid wall was built, we are no longer able to go there and to visit my friends who I used to visit up in the settlement. And then many things happened during all these years. There has never been a stability in Bethlehem. And then, COVID came, and then the 7th of October happened. And the first thing that Israel does is collective punishment for what have happened back there around Gaza. They punished us also as Palestinians. So they closed the whole city. They blocked all the entrances and exits from Bethlehem to Bethlehem. The only way to come out and in was by jumping over the blocks. And then they removed the blocks and they put gates that is also controlled by the IDF. Whenever they want, they close it. Whenever they want, they open it. Settlers have been very violent around Bethlehem. And in my case, on the 31st of July, settlers attacked my in-laws while my son was with them in their land, in their own land, in Beit Jala, in an area called Al-Makhrur, which is the only green area left for us in Bethlehem district. As Bethlehem is a beautiful, district, a beautiful governorate, but we have only control over 20% of its lands, and the rest is under the Israeli military and administrative control, including like Area C and Area B. So we really don't have any control there. And those areas, which is Area C, now is full of settlers, violent settlers that believe that by occupying or stealing our land. They are bringing back their promised land and resettling the promised land. And they are taking our land, which we have registration paper and registration deeds. Like my in-laws, they have papers in their own land. But still, they didn't care, the IDF, and they came protecting the settlers and just stole in front of the world our land, in front of our eyes and in front of everyone. And we have been since then in a fight mode, where we are trying to resist non-violently. We are trying to prove that, they cannot take our land. This is our land. We have papers from the Supreme Israeli court saying that this land belongs to my father-in-law, that we have the right to be there. On the other hand, the Jewish National Fund is claiming that they bought the land in 1969, and luckily and thank God we were able to prove that those papers that the Israeli the JNF, the Jewish National Fund, were fake. So we got the original deeds from the archive, the Israeli archive, and we couldn't find the paper that they claimed that they have their names on it. So the Supreme Court gave them and said that they couldn't prove ownership and they don't have any right to be in that land. But still, they followed us, they intimidated us, they chased us, they tried to threaten us in all ways possible, until they came finally with the protection of the IDF and the protection of the police, using their own kids, the kids of Israel, the kids at risk in Israel, to attack us, to steal our land, attack us with knives and weapons and you name it, and we were kicked out.
When you say kids, can you just tell me a little bit more about
Yes.
this situation?
Yes. So most of these kids who are now attacking Palestinians in the villages and in the cities, and I'm saying it because I saw it with my own eyes. Those are kids like 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, sometimes older, but from 12 until 18, let's say. And those kids come from the system, from the Israeli system. They are kids with problems, psychological problems, they are sick, they have problematic families, they were kicked out from schools, drug issues. So the system takes them in to take care of them, but they end up bringing them here to the West Bank to do whatever they want, making them believe that what they are doing is heroic and what they are doing is really defending the promised land. And this was for us, when we saw that and when we knew about those kids and from where they came, it was shocking for us. Not as shocking because we were surprised that Israel would do something like that, but it was shocking for us because those kids are being used in the ugly game that Israel is playing. They are, instead of giving them love and compassion and just letting them live their life in a lovely atmosphere, they put them in danger.
Into these settlements, right?
In settlement outposts out there, just in the mountains, planting or taking care of the sheep and the goats, which is something that they even don't know how to do, but they make them do it. And in one instance, one of the guys, one of these kids that attacked us a few days in, and one of the Israeli activists who came to do protective presence for us, he was talking to him. He speaks Hebrew, so he was talking to him, and this little kid, he's not little, I mean, maybe he's 17, and he told my colleague, well, if I don't come here, they would not give me my medicine. So what we've also found out, that those kids are intimidated or are blackmailed. Like, if you don't go to do this work in the settlements, we will not give you your medicine, whatever it is. Maybe, psychological medicine and so on. And in many incidents where those kids attacked us, one of them, like one of the times, or more than one time, he approached me so much, like very close to me, where he was like breathing, and you could smell he's like full of alcohol. His eyes were very red. Like you can see that those kids are not normal, and they are being used, and they are being put up there in the mountain by themselves. Of course, they would go and buy alcohol. Nobody is there supervising them. They are just kids in the mountains.
Just to clarify for those who may be watching that don't understand the difference between an outpost and a settlement,
Yeah.
do you mind just clarifying this,
Sure.
please?
An outpost is the first stage of a settlement. So, let's say me, Amira, I come with a bunch of friends, and I see an empty land, and I go to it, and I put a mobile home or a container, or caravan. I put it there. I raise the Israeli flag, and I say, "This is my land." That's an outpost. It starts with one mobile home, with one cottage, with one whatever there is for them to do it.
On
And
Palestinian
on
land.
Palestinian land, yes, in Area C especially, mostly they do that in Area C. And they say that this is our land, and nobody can even talk with them. The IDF would see that they are there, but they would not stop them. And imagine 1 week in, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then they bring another one, and then another one, and then another one, until it becomes a settlement, where a settlement is a more constructed area, like streets, pavements, electricity, water, though it's illegal still, but it still gets services from the municipality nearby. So if it's nearby Jerusalem, it will get services from the municipality of Jerusalem. If it's near Nablus, so it takes its services from the municipality, any Israeli municipality nearby. And after that, like for example, Gilo, where we live, just on top of the mountain, few meters up, this settlement was built in 1967 on our lands, on people's from Beit Jala land, Christian land. It was built starting with an outpost, few caravans, mobile homes there. It became later a settlement, and now even if you go and ask an average Israeli walking on the street in Jerusalem, tell him Gilo, he would not know that it's a settlement, because now if you look at it, it's like a city.
It looks like a city.
It's a big one with everything. Even it has its own council, its own services, its own, and it's considered part of the Great Jerusalem. So that's what happens. It starts with just tiny caravan with few little kids who are sent, and it becomes a whole town.
And under international law, these settlements are illegal.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So-
even in Israel, in the Israeli law, it is illegal, actually.
So can you explain how the Israeli government channels funds and incentivizes for Jewish people outside of Israel to come and be part of these settlements?
Yes, actually, they do it in a very convincing way. If I was a Jewish and I was living abroad and I was offered a piece of land and a beautiful house near Jerusalem, where the promised land is, where all, my religion started as a Jew, I would come running. If I would be offered, monthly incentives, if I would be offered health insurance, if I would be offered like social security benefits, of course I would come. And if I want just to be living a better life than living abroad, but then then they use those who are more religious, and those people who are more religious just come because this is the promised land, and they come because of that. But I read the other day some statistics from the Haaretz actually, and it says that 75% of the people living in those settlements are not even religious, and they are just searching for a better lifestyle. Because if you go to Jerusalem searching for a house, it would cost you millions of dollars just to get a room. But going to live in a settlement, it's much, much cheaper, and you get a condo. So, and a plot, you have a land plot. So imagine, what would you do in their place? Of course, I would go and live in a settlement. And most of the people there are like this.
Thanks for explaining that to us. Can you share with me how you became a peace activist?
Yes. In 2000, when our house was partially bombed, I was only 12 years old. And we had to flee our house for 4 months because it was so dangerous and we needed to fix it. And the situation was so dangerous and so bad, even financially, to be able to fix it again. And because we were like without work, my parents, we were sitting, no schools, curfews, bombing. So really the situation was so bad. So we were away for 4 months, and then suddenly where we were hiding, or we moved for 4 months, some bullets came in where we were like in the new house. And my parents said, if we have to die, we will die in our home. We're going back home, even, if there is bombing. So we went back home, and a group of women called Women in Black from London, they heard about my family, and they offered to do protective presence in our house and stay with us. So one of the women from England, her name is Liz, she came and stayed with us for around 6 months. And at one point, she told us that she wanted to bring a friend to visit. And of course, we were so excited because back then, our neighborhood was like ghost town. There was nobody, everybody left, and there was nobody here, and nobody wanted to visit us because it was too dangerous. And so I was standing, my mom beside me, and waiting for this woman to come in. She came in, and the first thing she did, she ran towards me, she hugged me, and she started crying and told me, I am sorry for what my people are doing to you. Turned out that this woman was an Israeli Jewish American woman, Naomi, who came and did protective presence for my family and risked it all to come in the West Bank and be under a very risky area and do protective presence for us. And she stayed with us a few days. And since then, me as a child, as a 12 years old child, from having friends in Gilo, the settlement, to those friends are bombing our house, they became my enemy. For one Israeli person who came to my house and offered protective presence, then okay, no, maybe they are not my enemies. Maybe there is another way. And that was a life shift where since then I'm convinced that there is another way between us and Israelis. And even with all the cruelty, with all the anger, with all the brainwashing, with everything that is happening between us, I still believe that there will be one day where we will come together and live together like we did before. Before 1948, people lived together. Jews, Muslim, Christian, Druze, all kind of religious backgrounds. Even before 2000, every time I speak with an Israeli, he tells me, oh, I remember coming to Bethlehem and eating, barbecue and eating that and buying from the market before 2000. Nobody killed an Israeli who came in Bethlehem. But the system and the Israeli government just planted fear in people's hearts and minds, telling them that all Palestinians want to kill you, nobody loves you, another Holocaust will happen, and they just filled people with so much fear that even Israelis themselves, even those who knows that this is wrong, believed it, unfortunately. And but I say, even with all this, I believe we cannot just, turn around our faces from each other and say, I hate you, let's kill each other, because I believe that violence brings more violence, blood brings more blood. If I kill someone from your family today, you want revenge to my family, and it's a circle that will never end, and it just will bring more pain and sadness and tears. But I believe that non-violence, communication, dialogue between both people, even if sometimes it's difficult, because each one has his own narrative, but still, I believe that at one point we will be able, both of us, to see each other as human beings and respect and cherish the narrative of each other, and apologize for all the pain that we caused to each other, no matter who started. Because I can say, we started, and you tell me, no, you started, and I tell you, no, you started, and we never get to a solution. We have to put the past, not aside, of course not. We will never forget, nobody will forget that somebody killed his family or his brother, but at least, let's start looking for the future instead of going back to the past. What happened in the past happened. We cannot change it. We can change our future.
Talk about what inspires you to continue advocating for change in such a challenging environment.
It's really not an inspiration, what I feel, but I feel that pain is too much, and nobody should hold on to this pain and see more people being killed, more, more destruction and cruelty going on. No one deserves that, and that's what makes me go on. It's just, I can't see it happening anymore. We have been under this situation for the past even more than 75 years. People say 75 years, but if you look back to history, it's even much, much more before. And it shouldn't continue. No one deserves. Not them, not us. Even with all the mistakes and all the, you can point fingers at any side, but I don't believe that any human being should endure all this pain. Everybody should live happily ever again. Really, why should I, wake up in the morning worrying about my son going to school if he will be killed today or not, or going to his work being killed or not, or me going to work in Ramallah and getting attacked by settlers, or, why? Nobody deserves that. So that's what really, it's not inspiration, but it's the motto that makes me continue talking and advocating and working. And even sometimes it's just so frustrating, because some people, they are just so blind. They don't want to see the truth. They don't want to hear. They don't want to listen. They are drowned with their own lies and their own beliefs and their own narrative, that they cannot even see the other, So, but I believe that the more I tell my story, the more I tell my people's story, and the reality, I'm not telling you history. I'm just telling you what really happened with me, I think even a tiny bit, I might touch someone's heart and change something. Maybe, not finishing with this conflict, but at least one person would, and especially those who would join the army after. I experienced this one time where I was sitting with children, not children, but 17, 18 years old, where they have the preparation year before going to the army. And I was in a place where they came, and there have been more activists there. And they asked me to speak with them and tell them my story as a Palestinian living under occupation. And I told them. And maybe I didn't stop them from going to the IDF, but I know that some of them, when they are there, given an order to shoot, they would have a second thought, they would not shoot immediately unless they are in danger, for example. But I'm sure, if they were able to see a little bit of the human inside me, this can change a lot.
Considering the right to resist an occupation is enshrined under international law, how do you come to choose non-violent resistance over other forms of resistance? And talk to me about what you see as the power and the limitations of non-violent means in achieving lasting change for Palestine.
Yeah. I believe that, as I said before, and I will say it always, violence brings only more violence. Violence will create more violent people. Violence will not solve any conflict. And grudge and hatred will raise and will continue even more. So that's why, for me, armed resistance, I cannot tell people not to do it, okay? But I or people around me will not do it, because I don't believe in this way, though many Palestinians and many other people around the world, they would not agree with me, because they would tell me that Israel, nothing worked with Israel but armed resistance. So I do agree to some extent, but it's not the whole truth. The whole truth says, and from other countries and other experiences where nonviolence was effective, nonviolence when all people agree to do nonviolent resistance and go to the street and protest and do. There are lots of acts of nonviolence. It's not only protesting in the street. There are lots of them, and we Palestinians have in our history so many stories of non-resistance, non-violent resistance, like in the first Intifada, when schools were closed. People started taking their children to each other's houses and making schools in the houses of each other. For example, when Israel banned and stopped food from coming to Bethlehem in the first Intifada, people started raising their cows and taking milk and spreading to the whole community. This is resistance. The resistance, it doesn't mean I'm just there to defend my existence with weapons. My resistance is by being me, by sitting here, talking, showing the world what a Palestinian is, who is a Palestinian, and not what the media or the propaganda tries to show us as ugly, as uneducated, as extremists, as people who would rape and kill, and that's not true. That's not true. And my resistance is by living and be alive, by celebrating life in all forms, education, planting, even dancing, dabke, our culture, our tradition, our beautiful cities. This is my resistance. And if you do the armed resistance, it's just giving Israel or anybody the excuse to say, terrorists, let's kill them. So with armed resistance, you are just giving them the excuse. But when I am here, and now an Israeli comes and kill me, people will go crazy because they will say, Amira didn't do anything wrong, so he doesn't have an excuse to kill me. I'm not doing anything wrong. Internationals, first of all, they should come and visit us, visit the Holy Land, visit the West Bank, visit Masafir Yatta and Hebron and Bethlehem and Nablus and Qusra and Nuba and every inch of this land which is affected by the settlers and the IDF and the invasion and the occupation and the bombing. Like really, they need to come and see with their own eyes. That's to start with. If they are courage more or courage enough, they should stay and live with the families for a while, for cultural exchange and experiencing what does it mean to be a Palestinian, to live in refugee camps with people, to live in like South Hebron Hills where Bedouins there are targeted every night by settlers, which some people are already doing it and some groups are already doing this work. And then when they finish this experience, and not to come 1 or 2 days, but really stay at least 3 months to really experience. And then to go back home and tell the world, show pictures, make movies, make documentaries, go to the churches and speak up for us, speak up on behalf of Christian Palestinians. Like, the world don't know that we exist even. Like when I tell people I'm Christian Palestinian, they would ask me, when did you convert? And I'm like, hey, Jesus was born in Bethlehem. I'm a Bethlehemite. I'm from Bethlehem. So I was never converted. But actually I was converted from Judaism to Christianism when Jesus was born. And I always tell people, well, I might have more Jewish blood than all of these Jews here in this country because I'm a Bethlehemite. I'm Christian Bethlehemite. I was born in Bethlehem. My grandfather and my father, and before him, great-grandfather. My father was able to go back to the family history to 1600. And we were from Bethlehem. So imagine, like, we were here and we are here. And nobody knows about us. So this is another topic, Christian Palestinians. And tell the world about settler colonialism, tell the world about apartheid, tell the world about occupation. What does it mean to live under occupation? Just that. It's very simple. It's very simple. It doesn't really need lots of effort. Just 3 months of your life where you are fully on this mission. That's it. And then you take this message and give it to someone else, and this someone else can, do it and again and again to others, and more people would know. Mm-hmm. Only by targeting the church in your community, very, very small part of your community.
If there was anything you could say to the world and have it heard, what would it be?
I will tell the world, and especially after what we are hearing for the past few weeks from other leaders in the world, we are Palestinians. We have been always Palestinians. We will never forget that we are Palestinians. As much as you try to wipe our identity out, and we are not leaving, and Palestine is not for sale. That's it.
Thank you, Amira.
You're welcome.